Hey guys, it is Mrs. Stollemer here again. So today we're going to learn how to find a missing side length. So we're going to take your knowledge that you guys have learned how to find the volume of given figures. We're going to take that knowledge and apply that to solving for an unknown variable. And you guys have done this with area and perimeter. So we've written the equations for area, and then you had to solve the equation to find the unknown. You're going to do the same thing with volume. We're going to start. Step one is always to write the formula of the volume. Step two, you'll substitute in the values that are given in the problem. And then three, you solve for your variable by using inverse operations. So here's a rectangular prism, and the volume is 72 feet. It tells us that. It tells us that the length is 3 feet and the width is 6. The height is what we don't know. It could be height or width. The dimensions don't matter. You just know that you're finding one of them. So step one, we said that we write the formula. So the formula for a rectangular prism, we know is length times width times height. Okay. Step two, substitute in the given values. So it tells us that the volume is 72. So instead of V, I'm going to plug in 72. Okay. The length, we can say that the length is 3 feet. The width is what we're looking for, but again, it can be anything. We're going to solve it the same way. And then the height, we'll say is 6. Okay, I'll put these in parentheses because it's length times width times height, so we're multiplying all three of those variables together. So 3 times W times 6. Okay. Step three is we're going to solve this using inverse operations. So we know that we always draw a line down the equal sign. Okay. Then I'm going to simplify first. So let's go back and simplify this. I can simplify the 3 and the 6. We know it's length times width times height, so we're multiplying all of these numbers. So I have 72 equals 3 times 6 is 18, and then times W. We don't know what W is yet. So this says 18 times W. So we have to do the inverse operations to get the W by itself, right? We're trying to isolate our variable. So we're going to divide both sides by 18 to isolate that variable. Divide by 18. And when we do that, we're going to get the W by itself, which is exactly what we want. But remember, whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. So we have to do 72 divided by 18, which is 4. So 4 is W. Okay. Well, 4 what? Let's go back up here and plug in our answer. It is going to be 4 feet. Remember, it's not feet cubed. That's volume. Volume's feet cubed, and it's just the width. So this here is going to be 4 feet. So if I substitute in here, that's 4. That's my answer. So rectangular prisms, they're a little bit easier. You just have to divide. Let's look at a triangular prism. They're going to be a little bit more challenging because the formula is a little bit different. Okay. So it gives me the volume. It's 1,250 centimeters squared. This is the side here that I'm missing. Okay, so this side right here. I don't know the base of my triangle. I know the height of my triangle and the height of the whole figure. We're going to start by writing the formula for volume of a triangular prism. Now it's a triangle, so it's a triangular prism. And it's length times width times height divided by 2. Divided by 2. That's step one. Step one was to just write the formula. Step two says that we have to substitute in the values that are given. So instead of V, I'm going to plug in 1,250 because it tells me that that is the volume. Okay, the length is what we don't know. That's what we're looking for. The width is 10, and then the height is 25. Now these are interchangeable. I could have put 25 here and then 10 here because 10 times 25 is 250, and 25 times 10 is 250. It's the same thing. Okay, so we're solving for our variable L. We have to divide by 2. All right, so now we solve this by using inverse operations. I'm going to draw a line down the equal sign. I want to get that L by itself. So we have to get rid of everything else or simplify first. You can do it either way. I can simplify this first, or I can just start getting rid of things, okay? I am going to choose to get rid of the 2. This says divided by 2. The inverse operation of dividing by 2 is multiplying by 2. So I'm going to multiply by 2 on this side. And we know that whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. So I'm going to multiply by 2 on this side. Okay, draw a line. This cancels. And I'm left with 2,500 on my left side. And then on my right side, I'm left with L and 10 times 25. All right. Next, we have to simplify this and get rid of it. So 2,500, 10 times 25 is 250. So I'm left with L times 250. Okay. Now this L is being multiplied by 250. So to get rid of that, we have to do the inverse operation, which is division. So we are going to divide both sides by 250 to isolate our variable. Okay. Bear with me, it's a little hard to write on here. All right. And then that's going to cancel, and we're just going to be left with our variable. So 2,500 divided by 250 is 10. So 10 is my blank. Okay, so I'm going to go back. What we did was step 1, we wrote the formula. Step 2, we substituted in the value. So all I did was plug in the volume that was given, the width that was given 10, and the height that was given 25. And then I solved this equation. And you guys know how to solve. You guys are actually really good at solving equations, which is great. That's going to help us here. And then you solve for your variable, and you got 10. And you just have to include your units. So it's 10 centimeters. Okay, so here is 10 centimeters. Right, so those are our prisms. So we solved for unknown values with rectangular and triangular prisms. Next, we're going to do the same thing, but with a cylinder. We're going to follow the same exact steps. So step 1 is to write the formula. 2 is to substitute in the values. 3 is to solve for the variable. And it's going to be a little bit more challenging because it's a cylinder. Okay, so step 1, write the formula. So volume equals pi times radius squared times the height. Okay. Step 2, we have to substitute in our values that are given. So the volume is 3,014 and 4/10. The radius is 8. Okay, don't forget to square it. The height, that's what's missing. So see here, it's asking for the height. That's what we don't know. So we're just going to plug in h for height, and that's going to be our variable that we're solving for. Okay, so step 1, write the formula. Step 2, substitute in the values. We did both of those. Next, we have to solve for a variable using inverse operations. So I draw the line down the center. Okay. Here I'm going to simplify this first. So 3.14 times 8 squared. And remember, if you don't have a scientific calculator, you can just do 8 times 8. Right? And that is 200.96. So we're just going to simplify 200.96. Okay, so all I did was plug in my calculator, 3.14 times 8 squared, or 8 times 8. All right. Now we need to solve for our variable. So we're going to divide both sides by 200.96 because that's the inverse operation. Okay, whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So I'm going to divide this side by 200.96. Okay. This cancels, and I'm left with just my variable, which is exactly what I want. I'm going to pick up my calculator and do 3,014 and 4/10 divided by 296 hundredths. And you get 15. So 15 equals h. And we're done. So the height is 15 centimeters. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to do one more with you that's a little bit different for cylinders. So it is still a cylinder, but here you're solving for the diameter. Okay? Again, we're going to follow each and every step. Very simple, always follow your steps. Step 1, write the formula. So the formula is volume equals pi, 3.14, times the radius squared, right? That's the area of a circle. And then times the height. That gives me my three-dimensional cylinder. So it's pi times radius squared times height. Step 2, substitute in your values. So instead of the volume, I'm going to write 452 and 1600ths because that is what it gives me for the volume. Pi is 3.14. Ooh, the radius. This is what I don't know. So r is now my variable this time because that's what I don't know. And then it tells me that the height is 16. All right, so that's step 2. I substituted all my values in. Step 3 is to solve for the unknown variable. I'm going to draw a line down the equal sign. Okay. Next, I have to simplify. So I'm going to simplify this side of my equation. So I'm going to do 3.14 times 16 because these are all being multiplied. 3.14 times radius squared times 16. So that simplifies to 50 and 2400ths. And I still have r squared. Okay. And then on this side, I still have 452 and 1600ths. So I'm just going to bring that down. All right, next I'm going to start to isolate my variable. So I have to divide both sides by 50 and 2400ths. The opposite of multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide here. When I divide, that cancels, right? 50 and 2400ths divided by 50 and 2400ths is 1, so that's left with 1r squared, which is what we want. Then I'm going to pick up my calculator and do 452 and 16/10, or hundredths, divided by 50 and 2400ths, and I get 9. Now, this is the big misconception that many students make. They get 9, and they say, okay, 9 is their answer. But remember here, you have r squared. The square didn't go away. You still have r squared, but you have to get rid of that squared. So you have to do the inverse of squaring, which is square root. So you have to take the square root of both sides because I don't want r squared, I just want r. So these are the inverse operations. Okay. The square root of 9 is 3. So 3 is r. So 3 is my radius. Still not done. If the question asks you for your radius, then you're done. It's 3 centimeters. However, it asks you for your diameter. And you know diameter is twice the amount of the radius, right? So from here to here, this is your radius. Radius is half of the circle. It's asking for the diameter. So the radius is 3. So that means the diameter is 6. So the diameter is 6 centimeters. Okay. Now we're all finished. So you're going to practice this. You're going to take your knowledge of solving equations and your knowledge of volume of prisms and cylinders, and you're going to put them together to find unknown values. So you just need to follow these 3 simple steps. Write the formula, substitute in the values, solve for the unknown. Okay, just like we did with area. If you have any questions, Mrs. Mariano and I were both available to help you. So please just view the examples again if you need to, watch the video again if you need to, and try your very best. There's just 5 questions practicing this skill. All right, I hope you guys are staying safe, staying healthy, and a little sane while we navigate through this e-learning together. Remember, we're all in this together. I put on a peer discussion board on Schoology. So if Mrs. Mariano and I aren't available right away, because you know we have young kids, there's a peer discussion chat as soon as you open up the board. So you guys can talk amongst yourselves in there. Make sure that you're being appropriate. And you can ask questions and get help from your peers, just like you